Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to give it just another 30 seconds in case we get any late attendees, and then we'll begin. Okay, so I think we're ready. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Holly Francis, and I'm the Assistant Marketing Manager here at Adam Matthew Digital. I'm joined today by Dr. Ben Lacey, who's Head of Outreach, and he'll be leading today's webinar. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a couple of pieces of housekeeping. Today's webinar is being recorded. Should you experience any technical issues, or if you have to leave unexpectedly, the recording of today's session will be made available to you in the next few days. Also, everyone is muted, but you'll notice there's a questions tab on your toolbar should you wish to ask any questions, or if you're experiencing any technical issues during the webinar. For those issues, I'm on hand throughout today to assist. If you have any questions about the content of today's webinar, or anything you'd like to ask Ben at the end, please do use that questions feature. We've set aside time at the end of today's session to answer those for you. So with that little bit of housekeeping done, I'm delighted to hand over to Ben to begin today's session. So Ben, take it away.
Thanks very much for that, Holly, and hello everyone. Welcome to this session today. Thanks for your time and joining us. As Holly said, I'm Dr. Ben Lacey. I'm the Head of Outreach at Adam Matthew Digital. My role is to support end users of our collections. And today I'm here to introduce you to the company and its products. Just so you know a little bit about me, I have a doctorate in medieval history and experience of research and teaching in higher education, which I did before moving to Adam Matthew Digital. At first, I was in the editorial team here, putting the collections together, and then I moved over into the role that I now occupy. I wanted to start by just running through what today's session is going to look like and what we're going to cover. So I know we've got an hour in the calendar, but in reality, my part should only take 30 minutes or so, which leaves us plenty of time for questions at the end. I'm going to start by saying a bit about who Adam Matthew Digital are. I know not everybody will be aware of our work, so we'll have a look at the content we publish, the partnerships that we have with archives around the world, and the customers who trust us and make purchases from us in order to improve research and teaching at their institutions. I think maybe the best way to show what Adam Matthew Digital do is to actually showcase the work and give you some examples of it. So in recent years, we've published collections on two main types of platform, and I have one example from each. The first that you can see there is Foreign Office files for the Middle East. That sits on our Archives Direct platform, which focuses on government documents sourced from the National Archives of the UK. And then the second showcase will be Global Commodities, which is a standalone collection, and it contains material digitized from about 30 different libraries, archives, and museums. So we'll take a look at those a little bit later. There will also be a chance to hear a summary of this and have a Q&A. And I have some contact details at the end, as I appreciate questions may occur to people who are watching the recording, or people may think of questions after the live event and want to send them in. So who are Adam Matthew Digital? Well, we're a company who partner with libraries and archives all around the world to digitize their collections and make them available online to purchase in institutions. The company has 30 years of experience in publishing archival content. It actually started off as a microfilm publisher and then moved to CD-ROM and finally to online resources in the early 21st century. The success of the online collections actually led the company to being purchased by Sage Publications, with whom I'm sure you're familiar, in 2012, and we've really continued to grow since then. When you get a copy of this recording, I'd also encourage you to go and have a look at our website. You can see a screenshot of it here. You can find out more about the company and the collections that we work with on the website. In terms of digging into that work that we do a little bit more, our aim is to take important documents and make sure they can be accessed by your patrons. I feel like this job has never actually been so important. I mean, given the current pandemic restrictions and the long-term changes to working patterns that they're likely to herald, online material is vital now. More research and teaching is moving online and will continue to do so, and your patrons will need new ways to access the materials that they need, ways that don't involve going to a library or archive, but do involve seeing the documents online instead. And I feel that in a world of accelerating change, the library is going to remain at the heart of education, but it will do so by marrying content with technology. And Adam Matthew Digital will be an essential partner throughout that transition. In terms of what that looks like in practical terms, well, people affiliated with libraries or universities that have purchased access to our digital collections can view millions of pages of documents online from their home office or from library reading rooms when they are able to access the main building. And I should say it doesn't just stop at documents. I'm going to come back to this a little later on in more detail, but audio, video, images, maps, data sets, all of these are included in our collections as well. I mentioned on the slide that these collections are award-winning, and I do think it's important to note this because the success of any online resource is not just determined by its content, but also by the platform. It's really important to us that when a person comes on to one of these websites, they are able to navigate them with ease, to find the material they are interested in, and use it for their work with no problems. Our websites are built by an in-house team of developers who also work to update and maintain the sites. And this is complemented by our in-house editorial team who work to catalogue the documents and present them in the best possible way. Our feeling is that by working with subject experts in both areas, we are able to ensure the ongoing quality and usability of all the resources we publish. And if I just move on to my next slide, as part of that kind of constant drive to provide the best online collections, Adam Matthew Digital have consistently developed new platforms and technology to make the content easy to discover, navigate, and use. And I wanted to just pull out in the slides here one example of how this work continues today. We've actually taken a lead on pioneering new technology, and in this case, it's handwritten text recognition technology. So to say exactly what that means, when you search some of Adam Matthew's collections that contain manuscript material, that search will run in the handwriting as well as in any of the printed text or in any of the metadata or indexing that our editorial team have created. You can actually see a screenshot that offers an example of this on this slide. East India Company is the collection that I chose to use here. Just to give you some background on that, it's a new and ongoing project with the British Library that digitises the archival records of one of the most significant businesses in world history and the documents from the places they traded. What I did here was go in and take a page from a volume relating to the port of Mocha. Most of the material in the East India Company collection as a whole is manuscript, and it's this groundbreaking search functionality that allows users to find results within that material itself. So in this case, I searched the document for coffee, and you can see the result here. Now, East India Company is a new collection, as I say. What I should add is that when we do create new technology like this, we look for opportunities to enhance previously published products in the same way. So if you purchase collections from Adam Matthew, we don't just sit there and let them get old without coming back to them, looking at them again. You can be sure that we will work to make sure they remain up to date with the latest technology whenever we are able to. And that's part of our ongoing partnership with all of our customers. So in terms of who we actually work with, I wanted to highlight some of the archival partners. These are all institutions who have contributed content to Adam Matthew Digital collections. So you can see there places like the British Library and the National Archives, but also private and public institutions all over the world. And for us, it's really important that the content that we're providing is the content that researchers, teachers and students are most interested in accessing, and that's why we choose to partner with the institutions that we do. I will pause there just for a second so that you can take a look at that particular slide if you want to make any notes. And then to follow that up, I also wanted to say something about who is it that actually purchases content from Adam Matthew. So there's actually hundreds of libraries and universities around the world who have placed their trust in us and regularly purchase our products. I would say that the customers are mainly made up of the most prestigious universities in the world. So it includes some of the biggest research schools in the United States. There's some of the world's top public libraries in there as well, and also top ranking institutions from places like China, Hong Kong, Singapore. I think that you can again see some examples on this slide. I hope this makes the point that we are a global company. This isn't just collections that are being published online for a small group of institutions in the UK. This is something that is valued by customers all over the world. And really, I think the takeaway message here is that the most prestigious global institutions do look to Adam Matthew Digital for quality content that will meet their needs as being leaders in research and education. So I do hope that if you're watching this live or if you're joining us through the recorded version, that you take the time to have a think about how Adam Matthew collections could potentially enhance the experience of your patrons and the people who use your institution. I have one last slide on Adam Matthew Digital as a company before I move on to those collection demos. Because I guess I wanted to make it clear that when I say primary source content, I'm not just talking about paper documents. Now, don't get me wrong, we do digitize and publish a lot of these, and that includes books, periodicals, government documents, maps, business documents. However, it's important to note that our collections do contain more than this. So we have videos that can be streamed online. There are audio clips of things like interviews or musical performances that work in the same way. There's visual material that often complements the written documents. There's also objects which have been photographed in ways to recreate the experience of seeing them in person. So at times we've partnered with museums, for example, to make objects available online in our collections as well. And what I would really recommend is taking the time to have a look at the collections that Adam Matthew offer for purchase, trial in any collection that you are interested in or you think might be of interest to your institution, and then looking at the material it contains so that you can get a clear idea of what can be made available to your patrons through these sites. So, with that background in place, I thought probably the best way of demonstrating what it is that Adam Matthew do is to actually show you a couple of the collections, as I said at the start. So our first collection showcase will be Foreign Office Files for the Middle East, and that comes from our Archives Direct platform. Before we go into the collection, I have some top-level information for you, just to kind of set the background of this, I guess. So Foreign Office Files for the Middle East is all British government documents or documents that were collected by the British government that relate to the Middle East and date from 1971 to 1981. That includes things like diplomatic correspondence, minutes of meetings, reports that were put together for the government, political summaries, personality profiles where maybe business or political leaders in the region were being profiled by the British government. And also things like newspaper clippings or information from embassies that was being collected and fed back to the government in London. So in terms of coverage, really it covers the economics, political relationships and commercial interests of the entire region during this period. And this period is particularly interesting. The reason I chose this collection to showcase today is because of some of the events that occurred during that time, and also the way in which foreign governments, in particular the American and Soviet regimes, were trying to intervene in the region in order to gain an upper hand for their own policies and the things that they were interested in. So if I end this slideshow now, and you should be seeing on your screen instead the homepage for Foreign Office files for the Middle East. Now, just to say something about how the platform works, because I said that this sits on our Archives Direct platform, and I think it is worth highlighting the fact that Foreign Office files for the Middle East is just one collection here. So everything in this kind of top navigation menu under the heading Archives Direct is working across the entire suite of collections that sit on this platform. Meanwhile, everything that's below it, this kind of sub menu here, is specific to the Foreign Office files collection that we're looking at. The reason I highlight that and the reason it's important is because you might just want to be looking at this one collection. Alternatively, you are very likely to have people using the library who want to be able to search across all of the collections in Archives Direct. And by having this dual functionality, we can do that. And I'm going to show you an example of it later on. In terms of the collection itself, I would encourage anyone to start with an Adam Matthew collection by looking at the introduction pages. So I'm just going to click into those now for this collection. What this will basically do is give you a rundown of what the content is that you've got access to through here, including the file classes from the National Archives that are covered. But you will also find tutorials as well, and these are embedded as videos. So the introduction is a one-stop shop for what does it contain, what topics are covered, and also how do I use the site. So it's a great starting point if you've made a recent purchase or if you're trialing a collection to point users towards. I won't dwell too long on here because I do want to show you the main highlight of the collection, I guess, which is the documents section. I will just log in here. So obviously all our collections are built around the primary sources themselves. That's exactly what you would expect. When you're in Archives Direct and you come to the documents list, you will find it all kind of listed out in alphabetical order. You can switch this around. If you want to list the documents by date instead, for example, you can sort by date. There's also options to filter the documents as well. I'm not going to do that just yet. Instead, I'm going to click into one of these so that you can have a sense of what a digitized document from Adam Matthew looks like as well. So when we first get into this, what we have is a string of thumbnails along the top of our screen, and then what we call the document details page. Now, what this is the metadata that has been collected by our in-house editorial team and tagged against this document. And this is all searchable across the site. So the idea is that all of this is making the documents more discoverable and easier to find and use by students, by researchers, by tutors, whoever it is who wants to be using this material. You can see it's quite detailed, which helps. And from this page as well, you can do things like download the document. So we do find that a lot of researchers, for example, they like to find the material they're interested in online, but when it comes to actually using the material, using the primary source, what they want is a hard copy of that. And they want that hard copy to be available as a PDF whenever they want it. So you can download, and if you purchase with Adam Matthew, there's unlimited downloads on what you can do. So if I scroll along these thumbnails, I'm going to click into one of them because I just want you to be able to see what the document actually looks like when we click into it. So here is our digitized document itself. This document is housed in the National Archives. We've gone in and we've scanned it, and it's now available for anyone to load up on their screen at home and to read through that at their own leisure. So this is basically what Adam Matthew is all about. I'm just going to go back to our original documents list here. And I'm in fact going to go back to our homepage because one other thing I wanted to draw your attention to is the maps feature. So you will find all of the documents listed under that main list. But one thing we like to do with Archives Direct is pull out any maps that appear in the documents as well. We know that people like to use the map content, and from our perspective, it's important that that's as easy to find as possible. So you can search specifically in the maps. You can also see them listed, And if we click into one of these, we can view the map in that image viewer that we were just in. And you'll see that it's really easy to navigate back to the document that it came from. So this is the document that the map's been taken from. And if we close that down, you can see here is our map as well. So if you're interested in how British Petroleum were working to try and divide up oil resources in Abu Dhabi in the 1970s, and there's a series of maps that looks at that were being saved by the British government. Now, the other thing that I wanted to show you with this collection is the search feature. I would encourage everyone who's using an Archives Direct collection to focus on the advanced search option. It just gives you more ways to look at the collections than using a basic search. What I'm going to do is look for a phrase, in this case, oil crisis. And you could here decide that you were just going to search a particular person, a particular place, a particular topic. I want to look in keywords anywhere because I want full text results as well. So that's why I'm doing a phrase search in keywords anywhere. The other thing that you're able to do is add filters. So if I was interested specifically in 1973 and the supply of oil and the price rises that came with that, I can limit by that date range. And what I'm also going to do is filter by collection. So this is really important to note. When you go to the advanced search, it's going to automatically search across the whole of Archives Direct. For the time being, I just want to search in Foreign Office files for the Middle East. So I can select that collection, apply, and then I hit my search, and I'm going to look just in that collection for my search term. So you can see we've got 40 results here. If I click into one of these, I want to show you what that result looks like in a document. So our metadata has shrunk up. We can expand it if we want to, but we can also hide it. And here is our result. And we can actually click into this and we can view the result in the original document itself. And just to emphasize again, as I said before, we obviously offer this full text search that means you can see your results in the printed documents. And now in many of the manuscript documents as well, you can get this functionality. So it really is a way of getting people straight to the content that they want and they need. I'm going to go back to the advanced search and just very quickly run exactly the same search. But I'm going to do it without filtering by our collection. So before we came here and we filtered, I just want to show you the range. You can see that there's a lot of material outside of Foreign Office files for the Middle East that is contained in Archives Direct. So say you've got access to all of this portfolio, you can search across the entire suite of collections. And this is going to bring us back a few additional results. We've got 47 now. And it's just interesting, I guess, for somebody who wants to compare documents that are coming from other collections. So you can see we've got a result from our Apartheid South Africa material. So if we click into that as an example, this really does allow a researcher to compare what's going on in different parts of the world at the same time. So I'm going to click into one of our results. You can see from the snippet view there that this is related to Tanzania. And I can just zoom out here. So you can see that you might just be looking for oil crisis from a Middle East perspective, but actually this is a global resource and the oil crisis was global. In fact, that's exactly what it says here. The Tanzanian president is saying the oil crisis has become a worldwide issue, and in fact his government are moving to try and stop the price of petrol going up in their country because of the worldwide price spike in oil. So you can see there how you can use the advanced search to widen your research and really make this a global focus rather than a specific focus on the Middle East. So that's Archives Direct, and that's Foreign Office files for the Middle East. If I come back to my slideshow now, I'm going to jump on to our second demo, which is for global commodities, trade, exploration, and cultural exchange. And just to say a few words about this one. So we've got a different type of collection here. It's a standalone collection. There is a wider variety of content, and there's quite a few additional features that are designed to support students and researchers who are using the site. There's not always complete runs of collections in the same way that there are in Archives Direct, but the variety and the user friendliness of it, I guess, really makes up for that, I think. In terms of global commodities, you will find manuscript, printed, and visual primary source materials, and they are for the study of world history and trade. What they basically do is take 15 major commodities, such as coffee, oil, various spices, and they look at how they've been produced, traded, and consumed throughout history. There's quite a wide date range on this. It really is a kind of all-encompassing global historical project. So I'm going to show you that. What I'm also going to do is show you one of the additional features so that you can see that this isn't necessarily just about document primary sources, but there are some interesting pieces of data that appear in our collections as well. So apologies for the jumping around, but we'll come out of that and we'll come into global commodities. Let me start by going to the documents again. The principle is the same, that we're still using this navigation bar at the top to work our way around. You can see our commodities here, but what I really wanted to show you were some of the other filters. So if we go to our region filter, you can really see that this is genuinely a global resource. And when we go to document type, you can see that we are covering a vast range of material within it as well. I mentioned objects earlier. One of the things we do have in here are objects from museums, for example. I don't think you get that with many primary source collections, and I think it is something that really makes Adam Matthew one stand out. Now, we were looking at documents to do with oil in Archives Direct, so to stay consistent, I'm going to filter again by that subject for these documents. You can see that, again, we have our document listings. Again, this can be reordered by date. It can be reordered depending on the region you're interested in, things like that. And if I click into one of these documents, we've got one here called Alberta's oil industry. You'll see that it works in the same way. I say this is a different platform. It is because it's standalone, but the principle is the same. You've got your metadata here. You've got your images that you can click into at the top, and you've got the ability to download as much as you want as a PDF as well. I'm not going to do a search in this collection because it works in much the same way as it does in Archives Direct. So I feel like you've seen that and you know how that works now. What I will do, though, is go to the data and maps section because I do want to showcase some of the additional features that Adam Matthew creates. Now, the idea behind these is that they provide background and context to the primary source documents that we're including in the collection. So it will be things like interactive maps that allow you to explore trade, or essays that are written by world-leading experts in the field and subject areas that are covered by the collection, or in this case, some visualizations that look more at the economic side of the collection. So price data visualizations look at the prices of different commodities across time and space, and there are hundreds in there. So you can look at a standardized set of commodity prices across time. The one that I wanted to highlight today, though, is the energy data visualizations. So if I click into this, this is actually being produced based on data that's collected annually by BP. And what we've done is turned it into an interactive tool that you can explore in your own time and download the data from as well. So we start off by choosing an energy. What are you most interested in? Say we're interested in oil. What would you like to see data on? Proved reserves, production, consumption per capita, or refinery capacity. Well, say it's reserves that we're interested in. You can select that, and then you can go through time. I'm going to move our globe to look at the Middle East here. You can go over time, and you can see this graph here is going to change over time based on the reserves that were known at that particular year for that particular country. I've chosen to just look at the top 20. You can select countries to look at specific ones if you want to. You can take the time to look at every country if you want to. And you can just see how things change over time. For example, as we go into the 90s, you'll see a dramatic impact from the first Gulf War in there. Say you're interested in gas and you want to look at the production of natural gas reserves. Again, you can start in 1970, but if you want, you can jump up to 2010 and you can say, what does it look like then? How does it differ from where it was in 1970? And you can see, you know, the boom in gas production in Qatar, for example, shown across time. You can actually hover over one of these and you can see the little graph at the top is just showing how Qatar's production compares to the global mean over the same period of time. You can do this with any country you like. I think it's important to note that the data can be downloaded. So I talked about downloading the primary sources. This data is an important source in itself. And if you've got people who want to download it and manipulate it and use it for their own projects, they are able to do that as well. So that's an example of an additional feature that we would create that complements the primary sources and hopefully really helps make the case that these Adam Matthew collections are about presenting the documents and making them as discoverable as possible, but also about providing that background and context that can really help people make the best use of them. And this is why we're award winning. This is why people really value the collections that we put together, is because there's so much added material in there as well. So that's our resource demos, and I hope that has helped understand a little bit more about how it is that Adam Matthew work and the types of collection that we produce. I'm going to move on now to the summary and take a look to see if there's any questions as well. First of all, just to kind of round up what we've been talking about. So what is it that Adam Matthew do? Well, we work with libraries and archives to digitize their holdings and make them available online. That means millions of pages of documents, hundreds of hours of video and audio content, groundbreaking technology and additional features, all coming together in single collections that can be purchased. And we're trusted by global archives to partner with us to digitize their collections and used by world-leading educational institutions to improve the research and the teaching that they make available. So I hope that I've made that case to you today. In terms of keeping in touch with us, if you do have any questions about pricing or purchases, or to arrange a free trial, and that's something that I would really emphasize, to get a real sense of what it is that Adam Matthew do, your best bet is to arrange a free trial. We can set you up with access for a month. You can explore the collections yourself. You can work out what's of most relevance and interest to you. And if you'd like to do that, you can contact my colleague, Matt Drury. His contact information is there on the screen. He'll be able to set you up with a trial or give you pricing for any of these questions. When it comes to the content and any support that you might like to ask, if you've already purchased content from us, you are very welcome to contact me as well. And again, my email is up there. I'm going to leave those up there as I come to take a look to see if there's been any questions at the moment. I can't see any there at the moment. If you do have any, please do feel free to pop them into the questions box. I'm very happy to take some time on those. Alternatively, you might just want to pause at this point and maybe go away, trial some collections, reflect and ask questions at a later date. But I'm here if you do have anything that you would like to ask. Okay, I can't see anything coming in, and hopefully that means that we've covered what you were expecting to hear today, and we've maybe answered some of those questions that you came into the session with. So the only thing that remains for me to do is to thank you again for your time. I really do appreciate it. I hope this has been useful, and once again, I really encourage you to take a look at the Adam Matthew website and to trial any collections that you're interested in, and then do come back if you have further questions once you've had the opportunity to do that. We're always happy to answer those. Thanks very much.